Hi, my name's David and this is Revelation, my small 27-foot wooden home. We left England and its cold grey seas to circumnavigate the world single-handed and experience sailing that was exhilarating, fast, slow, rolly, with dolphins, with others, with sailing and mesmerising sunsets, to find anchorages that were sunny, picturesque, quiet, blustery and simply sensational. So join me in Revelation as we attempt to sail around the world. Well, it's March the 1st, still in Torrevecchia Marina. Got a month to go before I leave on April the 1st, so it gives me 1 month to do all the work I need to do on Revelation before we go. There's enough work to do up the mast and along the boom as much as around the boat. There's a few little cracks I need to look at, and I also decided to kind of refit the whole cockpit. If it's going to be so hot out there as it was last September, then it's going to be an important living space. But the most important thing is to change all my bottle screws. These beautiful old brass ones. One just snapped, so I've gone out and I've bought 8 of these, 3 either side and 1 bow 1 stern, stainless steel, to replace these beautiful old things which I was just going to clean up, but the screw bit of it just snapped off, so I guess they're 60 years old too. So it's time to check along the boom, and the fixtures and fittings, which still seem kind of okay. The boom's made in 3 parts, so there are a few places where I'm going to have to re-glue. And then this beautiful brass end of the boom, it's been very brown for ages, and I tried to clean it up with all sort of things, but I could only really get the muck off by wet and dry P600. So the blocks need a bit more teak oil and a varnish too. But this seemed to be the only way of getting all this 60-year-old grime off the end to reveal this beautiful brass. I mean, it's pretty sacrilegious to use wet and dry, but I get it wet all the time, so it did seem to come off. I'd rather have it slightly abraded and looking like it should. So, and then started filling all the little cracks that appeared in the boom with this super wood glue I got from the chandlers, that is supposed to seal and dry tougher than the wood itself, so we shall see. Not many places, but you know, it's in 3 parts, so best to fill every little crack that there is, really. And then in the cockpit, which is made out of 9-layer marine ply, the glue in between certain layers had perished, so again I just re-glued everything, clamped it together, and then put on the top of that this wood epoxy mix, which is tougher than the wood but a bit harder to grind down. But I've done a little bit, and it seems to once you get your little mouse sander on it, get it down to looking pretty smooth, and a bit of varnish on that should just be tough enough to even stand on, so it's good to do that. And as all the cleats are made out of teak. Any cracks in them, again, I can't replace these. I mean, what would replace it with? I'd never get it off, so just re-glued, clamped, and once I sand, probably epoxy over that, and then varnish it, and then I replaced a lot of screws that were clearly not stainless, as they'd started to rust. So the main fair leads either side, brand new stainless screws, as well as in the bow roller too. And then I can refurbish the wood around the roller as one of my jobs. And then I wanted to strengthen the gunnels when you're having to leap around from time to time, so I got 5-sheet marine ply and then this soft rubber covering that. I think the motorboats just glue straight onto the deck, but I wanted to strengthen the gunnels too, so I basically glued the rubber to the marine ply after varnishing it both sides, and then getting some waterproof kind of adhesive silicone. I'm going to glue them to a few parts of the deck, especially by the cockpit where I'm always jumping in and out of, so that's going to strengthen the top deck. I mean, the gunnels are made out of marine ply, but none of them soft, but I thought let's just strengthen them anyway. I'd done 2 smaller ones earlier and glued them down, and they seem to be pretty bulletproof, so when I'm jumping around the mast I can step onto them rather than banging on the gunnels all the time. And actually it's a nice place to sit, bit of padding. And then the cabin roof, I got a really sharp spatula and scraped, and this is what came off. And anything that doesn't come off with a vigorous scrape, then it's still good. Pointless taking off the stuff that doesn't want to come off, so it wasn't too bad. I get a lot of sun beating down on it, so that was all scraped. And then I put sanding blocks. Just wanted to fettle up the edge really between the old paint and the wood. So once that's sanded down, and you just rub it and you can't feel any ridge, then you know when you're going to paint over it, it's going to be fine. So all that was done. Can't feel any of those, so just the time to finish off both sides and then give the whole thing a really good hose down, and we can let that dry, and tomorrow time for the epoxy. So everything feels really smooth. It's dried from yesterday's dousing. So I'm going to paint the whole of the cabin roof with a coat of epoxy. I can feel that under my brush, it's really smooth. So once I get a bit of P600 on the epoxy to give it a bit of a key, then I can paint it. But I can't think of any other way to do that rather than just putting more and more paint on. The gunnels were originally sheathed in epoxy and they seem to have done a good job, so epoxy on, dried, and P60 to give it a bit of a key, and then do the nicer bits of wooden boats. This is a granulated non-slip decking which works so very well even in bare feet when the boat's over at 20 degrees and they're soaked with seawater. It grips your feet really well, no slide at all. So I know that I won't have to do this cabin roof for a while, and after that I took a break to do just about the nicest job you can do on a boat, putting some teak oil. I just sanded this smaller bit of these cockpit seats back to the teak and put a few layers of teak oil on just to see whether that was going to work, and I think it will. I've sanded all the cockpit teak, so teak oiling is rather nice to do. And the old block, this is just teak oil. I'm going to put 3 or 4 layers of that on, and then I will probably give it a couple of coats of varnish on top. But again, it's a beautiful old block. When it finally explodes on me, go and spend 100 quid on a plastic one. But not yet. Not quite yet. Now the gunnels were fine, they just needed a really good scrubbing brush on. Nothing was flaking or coming off, so time to give it a couple of coats of the same non-slip painters on the cabin roof. And you can see how things discolor and get dirty, so it's great just to be able to put a couple of layers. I thin it down quite a lot rather than really thick layers. I'll just peel off like skin. So this is just like, it goes on like a single cream, and very satisfying to do. And sometimes I wish in life you could fast forward some of the jobs that you have to work on. And when I got fed up of doing all the painting the next day, I thought I'd just mess around with my sails. So I put my sail bag and lazy jacks back up. What a tangled web we weave with these. Blessing and a curse, but eventually after about an hour I managed to untangle everything. And then I thought, right, it's really quite warm, I'm going to wash my sail down. So that's exactly what I did. I hadn't seen my sail up in 5 months. It cleaned up really well. and I'm so happy to see it up. And the following day back to the grime of sanding and painting. So the whole cockpit has been sanded, it's been epoxied, it's been keyed with a P600, and now this isn't a non-slip, because this is literally what I'm going to put my wooden teak-oiled cockpit seats back on. This is just underneath them. I just wanted to seal everything, so when, you know, various waves have come into the cockpit, it just gives the water an easier runoff into the gunnels, and also a nice contrast between the white and the teak oiled cockpit seats. And here's one I prepared earlier. Well, at least that's the first coat, and tomorrow I'll again give it another little P600 key, put a second coat down and finish the edges off. But I think looks much better. And then I've already sanded the seats here, and I'm just going to teak oil those, and they will sit on top of that which I've just painted.